Do you want to be a landlord or a property investor? Before you invest in property, it's very important that you actually understand the difference. Because if you don't, rather than sitting back and watching your passive income roll in, you might actually end up spending your weekends doing maintenance jobs or refurb work, chasing late payments or dealing with tenants at all different hours of the day. And I know because before working with me, that happens to almost every single one of my clients. They waste days on viewings and dealing with contractors and taking calls from tenants at stupid o'clock in the morning. That's how I realized that property investment is not actually naturally in itself a very passive thing. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 systems that I've created to help run my and all of my clients' portfolios in the most hands-off way possible. When I first started, I assumed the best way to find properties was to get out there and see as many houses as possible. So that's what I did. In my first 5 months, I did 150 viewings before even securing a single deal. Now that's 1 to 2 full days every single week of me driving around looking at houses. And most of it was a complete waste of time. In fact, arguably all of it was. I'd turn up to a property only to realize that it wasn't in the right area, wasn't quite the right deal for me, or the seller wanted way more than I could offer. And that's when I realized I needed to reverse the process. I needed to put systems in place and systemize the sourcing process. Instead of viewing houses first and then deciding if they're worth it, I do all my research beforehand before I ever even step inside the building. That means that I check the areas and confirm the rental figures and even get offers agreed before we even book in to view. These days I'm only viewing 2 or 3 houses a week and we get offers accepted on over half of them because all the legwork is done up front. And if you want to make it even easier than that, if you just build up really good relationships with estate agents or property sourcers who can actually just do all this for you, that's probably the best thing you can do. And here's how it works. You could have like one 45-minute phone call explaining exactly what you're looking for. They would then go out there, find a property, do the viewings, take the photos, do the videos. Then you jump back on a call with them, confirm that it ticks all the boxes, and you're done. 2 phone calls instead of 150 viewings across 5 months. Now that's what a proper sourcing system looks like. Now once you've found your property, this is where most people make their second big mistake. They pick the cheapest solicitors that they can find. But in property, there's really 2 types of solicitors. Those that you have to chase constantly just to even get a response, and those who chase you to keep you moving on the different parts of the transaction. And trust me, the difference is astonishing. I've worked with solicitors where I've spent half my time just trying to get updates from them, chasing them for responses, following up on paperwork, basically just doing their job for them. But when you find a good, proactive solicitor, they're the ones that keep things moving. They could chase you for what they need and keep you updated without you actually having to ask. Now, how do you find these unicorn solicitors that actually make the buying process passive? I'd start with getting recommendations from active property investors, people who are doing it already day in, day out. I'd check their Google reviews, especially their most recent ones, and I'd have an upfront conversation about the support that you need. If you're just clear from the start, it makes it so much easier. If you're new to property or if you're investing from abroad, then tell them. Ask if they can provide the level of support that you need. And yes, a good solicitor might cost a little bit more, but if you want property to be passive, then you're paying for a service, you're paying for your time back. And this rule doesn't just apply to solicitors, it's the same for accountants and anybody else that you decide to bring into your power team. So make sure that they are proactive because that will make your part to play much more passive. And if you apply that advice to the next step, it'll save you a lot of time as well, because some investors just love wasting hours on this stuff, financing. You might hear that NatWest have a good mortgage rate, and so you go and you apply for your mortgage there, but then you see that Barclays have an even better rate. So then you go and apply there as well. But then you find out that Halifax has a solid deal. And the next thing you know, you're juggling 3 mortgage applications with 3 sets of paperwork, 3 times the hassle, 3 times the stress. But you don't need to do any of that. You just need one mortgage broker who's on the panel for multiple lenders. They take your single application and they send it out to all of the banks on your behalf. Not only that, but they'll assess the different offers properly, checking interest rates, deposit requirements, fees, to find out what the best overall offer is. And just like solicitors, the key is finding someone that is proactive in their work. You want a broker who is pushing things forward, keeping you updated, not one that you have to keep chasing. So how do you find the right one? It's pretty much the same process as with the solicitors. Get recommendations from other people and other investors who are active in the market, check their reviews, and quite honestly, it really does come down to that upfront conversation about the support that you need. Now, the fourth system is probably where I wasted most of my time and had most of my issues at the beginning, and that was with the renovation. When it comes to renovations, you've got three options. Do it all yourself, the good old DIY, manage individual tradesmen, or hire out a project manager to oversee the whole thing. Now, I thought I was being smart by managing all the individual tradespeople myself, coordinating when the plasterer was coming in, then the plumber, then the electrician. It seemed like a good way to save money at the time, but it actually turns out it wasn't. In one instance, we were 2 weeks behind on a schedule on a client's project, and my friend and I ended up staying up from 9 a.m. on site to 4 a.m. We then went home, slept for 2 hours, came back at 7 a.m. and then worked until 10 p.m. 2 straight days of absolute hell. And that's when I realized if this is what passive property investing looks like, then there is no way that I'm going to be doing this long term. So instead, I just got one main contractor who manages their whole team. Now I only deal with that one point of contact, one contract in place, and most importantly, one person responsible for getting the job done. And if they have to pull an all-nighter to meet the deadline, then that's on them and it's not on me. And if you want to make this even more passive, especially if you're investing from abroad, you could work with someone like ourselves, like a deal packaging company, who could go in and do periodic checks, make sure that everything's okay, things are keeping on time, on schedule, to make sure that your project is being run properly. Now, for the price that it costs to make sure that the quality of the work's being done to a high standard, things are on track, it can be absolutely worth the money. It's an extra layer of oversight without you having to be there. So just before we get into the final system, ask yourself the question, what is more valuable, your time or your money? Because this is often the point where most people's dreams of passive income fade and just die a death. They decide to manage the property themselves. Because at first it seems pretty simple. Find a tenant, collect the rent, sort out the odd repair here and there. How hard could it actually be? But then suddenly you're the one taking photos, creating listings, running background checks on people, handling all the compliance, which is changing every single day, getting calls at all hours with the smallest, tiniest things. I once had someone who kept ringing me, asking me how to turn the radiator on in the back bedroom. And yes, the answer was, you just twist the knob. And those are just the easy problems. When things actually go wrong, they can go really wrong. And that's why if you want property to be truly as passive as possible, then you need a good management company. They'll charge you like 10 to 12% of your rent, plus usually like a month's rent to find the tenants. But for that, you'll get proper tenant sourcing and thorough vetting. You'll get legal compliance and paperwork handled, regular inspections, a team managing the maintenance, and most importantly, a buffer between you and any problems that the tenants might bring up. So if that call comes through at midnight with a leaking tap, it's their problem and not yours. Another way to make management even more passive is to invest in the same area using the same agent as all your other properties. That way you're not just juggling different agents across multiple locations all over the country. You just say, hey, Bill, I've got another property for you. And they just come in and handle the rest. There's always risk in relying too much on one company. Like if your agent manages 50 of your properties and then they manage to go bust, you've got a busy few months ahead. But if you want property to be as hands-off as possible, having one solid team managing everything in the same area, in my opinion, is the way to go. However, even with the best systems and the perfect team, property investment can still never be 100% hands-off. There will always be decisions to make and things to oversee. But the more hands-off that you want it to be, the more it's going to cost you. Because every system we've talked about costs money. And yes, you could do most of these things yourself and save the cash. You have to decide the answer to that question. Do you value your time or your money more? If time matters more, pay for these systems to be in place. And if money matters more, then you've got time to spare and maybe passive property isn't for you. And if you really want to build your system to make it as passive as possible, that is something that we can help with at the Property Network. We manage everything from start to finish. It's a complete end-to-end service. We can help you with the property acquisition, the sourcing of the property, the support through the legal process to help you complete as quickly as possible, the renovation project management we can help with, the property management, tenant sourcing. So if you want to work with us and have an actual system to help you build your property portfolio, then book in for a free call using the link in the description. However, if you want to manage this yourself, before you rush off to start putting all the systems in place, there is one more thing that you need to know. These systems only work if you buy the right property in the right place. So check out this video next, where I break down the 31 crucial steps that you need to take before buying any property in 2025.